Dore.
Yeah, I'm ready. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our early edition of the Jimmy Dore Show. We do this for lots of reasons. One of the reasons is we could talk to our favorite people across the pond who, are on different time zones. They're like 9 hours ahead of us. So here he is. One of our most favorite ones is Neil Oliver, Scottish archaeologist, historian, broadcaster, writer. He's best known for the award-winning documentary series Coast, as well as his two critically acclaimed landmark BBC's history series, A History of Scotland and A History of Ancient Britain. He's written 14 books, presented 19 series for national broadcasters, recorded 2 major podcast series, hosts a live show on GBN News, and broadcasts weekly on his online channel. Please welcome back to the show my buddy Neil Oliver. Hey, Neil.
Hey, Jimmy. I sound fantastic. Thank you for that.
Okay.
I love the sound of me.
You are fantastic and much taller in person. Just to let you know, I met Neil when we were in Scotland, and him and his lovely wife. And how tall are you, Neil?
Do you know, I'm not 100% sure. I think I haven't been measured like that since I was at school.
Oh, okay.
I don't think. I'm probably I'm going to go with 5'10".
Okay, I'll take it.
5 foot 10 inches. So I don't know what that is in new money.
Well, I'm very sensitive to it since I shrunk. I used to be 5'10" myself, and now I'm about 5'7". So it's painful for me, but I put lift in my shoes and I get by. Anyway,
you look lovely to me, Jimmy.
Oh, thank you very much. So how are things? We were just talking off air, and I said, well, let's talk about this on air. You and I really connected over the COVID craziness, and I was kicked out of polite society in Hollywood for telling the truth about all things COVID, including my vax injury. People did not want to hear me talking about it. They was telling me it's when everyone, and I kind of understand, because people thought that this COVID virus was deadly. Turns out it wasn't. We were lied about its deadliness. It had that 0.3% death rate, 0.3, and which is kind of like the flu. Just like Bill Gates said after he cashed in his stock for Pfizer. Isn't that amazing? Nobody hears that except the people who watch the show. Anyway, I told the truth about it. I told the truth about the vaccine. It didn't stop transmission or contraction, and many other things. I told people how Fauci was lying, and people wanted me to shut up about all of it because they were convinced COVID would kill everybody, and that if people didn't take their vaccines, then we would never stop the virus. Well, we never stopped the virus because the vaccine wasn't a vaccine as it was previously defined, meaning something that gives you immunity to a virus. Now the new definition is something that creates an immune response, which is totally different. So people don't know any of this stuff, right? They still don't know about it. And so I'm still going through my vaccine symptoms have reoccurred. And so we were talking about that, and which makes me just so angry. So, let me just, I'm still shocked at the lack of curiosity of most people into COVID and all the lies that were told, and how people still aren't angry at Dr. Fauci. Do you still find it incredible that people are incurious about what actually happened? And you can take it anywhere you want about COVID.
I'll be amazed by what happened for all of my life. I will never get to a point where I'm not amazed by what happened in 2019, 2021, and is still going on. There's a strange schizophrenia about it. On the one hand, in relation to things like injury from the jabs, excess deaths, various aspects, the mass of the population have been successfully moved on. People just don't talk about it, and yet the jabs are still out there. People are still receiving boosters or whatever it is they call them, or at the very least, that product is still available. We find that when I say we, I mean my wife Trudy and I. We find that more and more around us, people report illnesses and death in a way that we weren't familiar with. I mean, we're not You know, we're not the youngest people in the room, but we're only, I suppose, really in middle age, and we think it's a bit premature to be hearing about so many strokes, heart attacks, so much neurological damage that neighbours, passers-by will report to as our kids come in from their jobs and say, you know, so-and-so, you know, has been diagnosed with stage 4 such and such. And yet, even now, you do not mention the jab. You just don't, because I think that it's not a lack of curiosity. I think for too many people who went with it, who believed in it, and then you know, and too many people who took the jabs, and all the people around them took the jabs, they don't want to contemplate what the consequences have been. And I do understand that. But it's a completely bizarre state of affairs, and I expected 6 years in or whatever to be beyond it, but I'm not. I'm completely fascinated is the wrong word, but it's a sinister presence in the background of our lives that we don't talk about.
I mean, I still talk to people. For instance, in the United States, I don't know if you heard about this. Just this week, a top Fauci advisor was indicted for lying and destroying and covering up evidence. So when you communicate, when you work for the government, you're supposed to do it on government-approved emails, government-approved phones, well, what have you. And they were communicating on private emails. They were destroying emails. And so they could evade freedom of information requests. And so now that person has been indicted, not Fauci. Fauci, by my own count, lied to Congress at least twice about funding the gain of function, which created the virus. So those are felonies, and he should be in prison. But of course, he got a pardon going back to 2014. And you only get a pardon if you're a criminal. You don't get a pardon if you're not a criminal. Anyway, so are you aware of that they finally indicted a top aide of Dr. Fauci's for destroying evidence?
I have. I hear all these things because I listen to channels and I listen to people who continue to remain hooked on the COVID debacle, and I hear all the ups and downs, but I don't believe there are ever going to be any meaningful consequences. I suppose from time to time there has to be lip service paid for certain. It's almost like a technicality, destroying evidence, so to speak. It's not getting to the heart of the matter. They're dancing around the actual issue, which is that the people were deliberately hurt, that society was shut down as an experiment to see how much control could be exerted upon the mass of the population, that billions, trillions were transferred from the poor and the middle classes, to the elites, that psyops were applied, that propaganda was used, that in Britain we had the 77th Brigade, part of the British Army, was using psychological techniques to push the message. That's the big story. And the deaths, the uncounted deaths. We'll never know how many people have already died on account of the jabs. We'll never know how many people have died because of everything that was inflicted upon the mass of the population. We'll never know about that. And there will be no consequences for that. But every now and again you hear about, here's the latest. Here's somebody being, indicted for inappropriate behavior around emails. It's not the point. It's not the point. And people like you and people like me who want, at this point, you just want someone to hold their hands up and say, yeah, we wanted to see what would happen if we rolled out a fake pandemic, if we rolled out to make way for a jab that we wanted to see what would happen, and that's what we did. And a lot of us got rich in the meantime, and no one's going to go to jail for any of it.
So
it's a deeply surreal, disorientating situation to still find yourself in, when you know that an incredible crime against humanity was perpetrated and committed, The guilty parties are still out there, boosted, ennobled, given better jobs, exonerated of all blame. It's an absolutely surreal situation in which we find ourselves. And as I say, I will remain amazed, stunned by this reality for the rest of my life.
I feel exactly the same. I tell my wife, I keep waiting to get over this. I keep waiting for it to not bother me. And it's just not.
Why would it not bother you? Why would it not bother you? I mean, if a family member was murdered, if your business was stolen out from under you, if you were defamed, and your reputation destroyed, without, at the very least, without some kind of compensation, or without the acknowledgement that you were the victim of that crime, or that your loved one was indeed murdered, without that, you cannot. Why would you forget? Why would you move on? The crime is still glowing red hot, and it looks like it will glow red hot until the end of time.
And so do you feel like, it was not a deadly virus? It just, if people look into the statistics, and when I say it was 0.3% death rate, that's even high. A lot of people say it was lower than that. So do you think that it was engineered because these crazy mad scientists, the people who torture dogs for a living, and do risky gain of function research for a living, even though it was outlawed by Barack Obama and they had to do it in a secret way? Do you think that they created this pandemic, overhyped the deadliness of the virus, and so they could get this new mRNA technology going? Do you think that's what it was about?
It wasn't about COVID.
It wasn't about COVID.
Is the reality. I'm not interested in whatever it was, right? The thing they called COVID, the thing that was invited into people's lives that was called COVID, was not dangerous. It was simply not dangerous. No more dangerous than any other, flu virus or any variant or any of these coronaviruses that were already in existence. It wasn't. It's to be distracted. I think the real point is what was done in its name. In the name of COVID, the world was ground to a halt. In the name of COVID, like the Patriot Act that followed 9/11. Our lives, our liberties, our rights were compromised, taken from us, right out from under us, without so much as a by your leave. A deadly, dangerous experimental product that was not safe, that was not effective, for which there was no use, for which there was no need, was rolled out and pushed into billions of people around the world, with catastrophic consequences that people are still living with if they're still alive. All of that was done in the name of COVID. That's what matters to me. I don't pay any attention anymore to what it was. It's that I've said it before. It's Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark. It doesn't matter if he's there or not. Whether he's there or not, if he's not there, the Nazis find the medallion, they find the Well of Souls, they get to the island, they get the art, whatever, and they open it and it kills them. He's just a distraction. He makes no impact on the sequence of events, apart from peripherally. COVID doesn't matter where it came from, what it was, because at the very least we know it wasn't dangerous. It's the cold. It's a common cold, and some people die of the common cold. And any death, any man's death diminishes me, for I am involved in mankind. But it's what was done in the name of it. They needed an excuse to grind the world to a halt, to experiment with people, to see what they could get away with, to see how much liberty they could take, to see if they could get the mass of the population to stay at home, to hide in their houses except for 1 hour a day. And they did.
Now, you had your whole career dismantled over telling the truth about COVID, correct?
Yeah, I mean, to be quite honest with you, Jimmy, I still, to some extent, I feel as if I've only really come to terms. I mean, I'm not building up my part here or anything, but I realise that the extraordinary thing that happened, I'm still realising what happened to me in that regard. You know, I mean, I was dropped by everybody. I've lost contact with everybody that I knew before. I've been blocked on social media. I've had former friends write hit pieces about me in national newspapers. You know, I was dropped by charities. I was dropped by my agent. I was dropped by a Sunday newspaper that I used to write a column for. I'll never work on, conventional terrestrial television again. All these things, and the way in which people sort of relate to me. I get a lot of support. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people write to me from around the world, and people stop me in the street to say, whatever, thanks for doing what you did. But the reality still is that I've sort of been rebranded as a crank, as an anti-vaxxer, as a conspiracy theorist, as an anti-Semite. I mean, I opened the gates of hell in a sense when I got involved in all of this, and I'm still waking up in the morning and think, gosh, that actually happened to me. One of my original reality was taken, and another vaguely similar reality was given to me in its place.
Are you able to find any positives, like the friendships that I've made since are much better, I guess, in a sense, than the ones previous? I didn't realize how fragile those friendships were, but go ahead. I'm sorry, I'll let you answer.
Yes, no, absolutely. If I could press a button and make it not happen, I wouldn't. I've learned so much. I've learned so much about human nature. I've learned so much about about what relationships are actually built on. I've seen the sort of the temporary or the fragile nature of a lot of the bonds that people take for granted. The nature of friendship. I've understood a lot of things that I would not have confronted before. And I genuinely feel wiser, older and wiser. And I wouldn't unlearn, not for a minute, any of the things I've learned. And the relationships that I have forged, yourself included, none of these things. And the relationship with my wife, which was strong, which was adamantine anyway, but was brought, I don't know, a sharp light was turned on it, and I was made to pay attention to how lucky I was in that relationship, for example. So there are huge positives. I feel as if I was a naive dupe, a child in many ways before, and I feel as if I have grown up.
Well, here, just to show you how much people are still intentionally incurious about COVID and the virus and the vaccine in specifically, and it's the most toxic, quote unquote, vaccine. Again, by the previous definition of a vaccine, it's not a vaccine. They had to change.
It's not a vaccine. It's a gene therapy.
They had to change the definition of literally in the dictionary. They changed the definition. So anyway, but here is Katie Couric. Now, she was a prominent journalist in the United States for decades, and now she does her own podcast. And here she is talking to another very prominent podcaster on the quote unquote left. They're not left. They don't know it. They're authoritarian, which is the opposite of being a lefty. And here she is talking about why are all the young people getting cancer, and listen to all the things she talks about. Here we go.
What the fuck is going on? I had coffee with an oncology fellow about 2 months ago, and she said, I had a very rough day. I just had to tell a 21-year-old college student with no family history that he had stage 4 colorectal cancer. And I'm hearing more and more about people in their early 40s, 30s, even 20s being diagnosed with this disease.
Look at the concern face. That's a very nice concern face from Karen Swisher, who has zero curiosity about what could possibly be causing this. Let's watch.
At an advanced stage, often metastatic colorectal cancer. I can't even tell you guys how crushing it is. And of course, I'm excited about trying to figure out why this is happening. Epidemiological studies are so hard to conduct, But there is something going on in our environment. It's not just obesity or a sedentary lifestyle. It's a confluence of things that include ultra-processed food, maybe microplastic, forever chemicals, overprescription of antibiotics. I don't know what is happening, but something is going on. And there's 17 cancers. 17 cancers are increasing among people under 50. So what the fuck is going on?
Now, did you notice that litany of things that she said is probably contributing to it? Not one of them was the brand new novel mRNA platform shot they gave people, everybody in the Western world. They don't even, that doesn't even come off. Go ahead, Neil.
I was down at a conference in Guernsey, which is one of the Channel Islands, little archipelago in between the south coast of England and the northwest of France. Guernsey, a tiny little place, 6,000 inhabitants or whatever, and more than that, I can't remember the population. It's a small place, and it was a conference about life after COVID, and I had the opportunity there to spend time with Angus Dalgleish, he's one of the most preeminent oncologists, cancer specialists in Britain. He must be up there near the top of the league table worldwide. There can't be many oncologists more published, more peer-reviewed and all of the rest of it than Angus Dalgleish. He's a top dog in that fight. And he speaks frankly about the lethality that was built into the product that was pushed into people's arms by the billions. This is a guy who has spent his life confronting cancer. And he talks about how SV40, I think it is, was a component that was in these mRNA jabs. And he said, we used to put SV40 into mice to make them produce tumors, cancerous tumors, so that we could treat the mice and learn more about cancer. He said SV40 was in these jabs, amongst other things. He talks frankly and openly about how lethally dangerous that product was and how it should be taken off of the market yesterday. 10 years, it should never have happened. And he's in wide-eyed disbelief that it's still out there and that nobody, Fauci and the rest of them, everybody involved in that sordid story of the rollout of those products, whatever the hell they were. There is no one better informed than Angus Dalgleish. And he'll tell you about he had people that he was treating, people that were in remission, people that he was looking after, that had been treating for cancer, and in the aftermath of taking their booster, the third in particular, the number of people that were going back into, suddenly they were in highly aggressive stage 4 cancers, people that he had in remission or under control for years. And yet, there's your journalists there who will list everything. Trudy pointed out to me a story about people suggesting that young women are contracting cancer in greater numbers now because of the amount of salad they're eating. Salad.
What?
Implication presumably being something to do with maybe some of the whatever, pesticides or other products that may be sprayed on it. But yes, guess what? Never mind the jabs, never mind the fact that billions of people around the world, a vast majority of populations in the West, took those jabs. Don't mention that. For God's sake, don't ever invoke the jabs. But yeah, lots of colorectal cancer, probably from the salad they're eating. It's more likely. It's more likely to be that. It's surreal. You see it everywhere, Jimmy. I mean, you say, what are the positives? What are the positives to come out of all this? But the post-truth, post-trust society in which so many of us are now living, there's no going back from it. And you see it now I learned cynicism. I learned the necessity to pay attention myself and to ask questions, no matter how uncomfortable it was to do so, in relation to the COVID debacle. And now I do it about everything. And once you learn to do it, once you become accustomed to doing it and taking the brickbats that are inevitable when you do it, then a whole new world opens up to you. And it's to do with the way you look at the Ukraine war. It's to do with the way you look at the so-called climate crisis. It's to do with the way you look at the genocide in Gaza. It's the way you look at the regime change wars that the US and NATO rolled out around around the world, 7 wars in 5 years, finally culminating in war in Iran, and everything that's happening around you, right up to and including, the latest. You've got to be specific now about which, assassination attempt on Donald Trump you're actually talking about. You mean the most recent one? Yes. And people, the net effect of this post-trust society in which we now find ourselves is that so many people, when they heard the news or watched the footage of that happening to Donald Trump or in the vicinity of Donald Trump, most of the people I know just rolled their eyes and said, yeah, that'll be right. Yeah, I bet. Now, that's absolutely extraordinary. A lifetime after JFK in Dallas in 1963 and the Zapruder film and all of the rest of it. Now, when there's, an alleged attempt on the life of the leader of the free world, an extraordinary number of people's automatic reflexive response is, no, I don't believe that. That's extraordinary. And that is where we've been brought by COVID.
So you bring up a remarkable point, and I just happen to have this loaded in for the show today. There's new video now of a security guy with a security dog. So in here is a room where they were having bar carts and things. They were storing them. And a lady was in there. And you know what? Let me just show you the lady talk about it, because I think that's it. So here, this woman is talking about that room. That's where the shooter was. And here's what she has to say.
Yeah, and everyone was pretty much in, and a lot of people had already gone. We were doing dinner breaks and shifts. Yeah. And I was just out there, and there was still security there, and I was even talking to the security guard that had a dog there. Yeah. And there's a room, well, it was like a makeshift room. I think they had it closed off to wheel in the bar carts after the reception. All these numerous bar carts going into this area, I think, to go in the elevator to go downstairs. Okay. So it looked like a makeshift room. I mean, he was literally from me to that building, and there was a security guy there too. I mean, I don't think anyone knew what he was doing.
Describe it.
I'm not even sure what he looked like.
And what made you think he's the shooter? How do you know he's the guy?
I saw him put the gun together and start shooting.
So she's saying that she was in this room. I'm going to show you the room, this room right here. And she says there was a security guy there. There's the security guy with the dog. She describes it. She said she was in that room and she was even talking to this guy. And now let's watch what this guy does. And she saw him put the gun together, which means that this guy must have seen him put the gun together if he was. So let's watch this, okay? And we'll play it a couple times because every time you watch it, it gets crazier. Let's watch. So there he is. He goes in there. That's the guy. The dog follows him in. The dog knows. Something's up. Now, here's the security guy. Hey, get back. He takes the back. He's still looking in there. The dog wants to go back in. Hey, there's something up with this guy. The dog, I guess, missed the training the night before about, hey, we're gonna have a fake shooting. And there he comes running out. And then, of course, there's the cops running the other way. I'm going to guess that dog wasn't at the meeting where they prearranged the entire incident, because dogs can smell the game before you play it. So let's watch it again. Just as that woman described, there was a security guy there. There was a security guy there with a gun. Let's watch. So there he goes. He's in. He's going in. And a dog follows immediately. And there's a security guy with the dog. The dog wants to go back in. And then seconds later, how did he not see that guy putting the gun together and come running out? And then, of course, those guards, obviously trained in Israel, run the other way.
We ought to be speechless, really. You know, the kind of natural, most believable response to that is just disbelief. But as I say, we now, for whatever reason, for good or ill, we now find ourselves in a situation where too many people just don't believe what they're being told. An event of some significance is pitched at them. This has happened, and it's terribly, terribly important. And too many people look at the official narrative and think, well, it won't be that then. You know, this may or may not be something of great import. I think I'll pay some attention to it, but I definitely don't think it's what I was told up front by the authorities. And you know, and this is a ridiculous / dangerous state of affairs for all of us to be in. It's like the crying wolf scenario. You know, people have become aware of too much propaganda. They've been told too many lies. They're sensitive to it. They don't know where to look. They don't know what to believe. But now the response to an event like this is cynicism and skepticism. I think that's extraordinary, but it's where we are.
Well, it all seemed engineered so they could get their ballroom built. And it's not about the ballroom. Everybody now is pretty aware that it's about whatever is going underneath the ballroom, right? And so people have figured that out. They changed the architects, and the architects is a Jewish architect. They changed it to a Jewish architect firm that specializes in temples, a special kind of temple.
Why? Explain to me, Jimmy. I keep asking people about this. It doesn't make sense to me that if there was a perceived need for a very, very safe space, deep underground or whatever, you wouldn't draw everyone's attention to it,
right?
Why would you invite everyone to at least suspect, if not know, that a space of extreme importance to the US administration was right there with those GPS coordinates on it? Why would, you know, up to and including, you know, an attempted assassination attempt on the president, which then becomes the supposed proof that this place is needed? I just don't get it. It's going to be the most conspicuous four walls on planet Earth.
100%. I want to play this one more time, just to show that
it's great. It's great, Jim. I particularly like the way the dog obviously didn't get the memo.
The dog missed that meeting where they prearranged this entire false flag. So there the guy goes. He goes in. The dog immediately goes after him. Cop completely incurious. Dog tries to go again. No, get away from the guy. He's putting his gun together. Let's turn my back on the guy. And then he comes running out. By the way, the metal detector doesn't even go off. And then the cops
run the other way.
They run the opposite direction of somebody with a gun. I guess that's how they're trained. And you could definitely tell that they're trained over in Israel because the dog is smarter than them. You could hear the Benny Hill music playing in the background as those cops run the other way instead of running after him. So and here's another piece of video. So here again, there's the door he's going to come out of, and now this guy is going to just start shooting like a maniac. And misses him. Completely misses the guy with. So there's several things about this video I want to show you. So we'll play this a couple times too. So let's watch. So here he comes running out, and this guy starts shooting. They miss him. Nobody got him. This guy there, I'm told he shot at least 4 bullets. Missed him with every one. And he didn't do
Where did the bullets go? They must have gone somewhere.
Well, that's what they're saying. So the report was, go back to this. The report was that there was one Secret Service guy hit in the chest. He was probably hit by this person and not the alleged assassin. Because we can't even confirm that the alleged assassin even fired his gun. So this is slow down. Here he comes. And I want to show you something. I don't know if you could see it yet. So he starts, there he goes, starts shooting, misses, shoots again, misses, 2 feet away, misses, keeps shooting, misses. There's a guy immediately behind him. He's trying to shoot him. That's not what you're supposed to do as a policeman. I know I'm not a cop. My dad was a cop. My brother was a cop. I know you don't shoot someone unless you know what's in the background. And then they all miss him. And
now, as you say, now they are saying, now we are being told, or word is getting out that although there was gunfire, none of that gunfire may have come from the gunman.
that's right. No, let's pause that conversation. We're gonna get into that in a second. I just want to play this again and show you. So he pulls the gun, shoots, and I think that he hits this person back, this security person here, because that security person immediately falls. See that? Immediately falls, then tries to get back up and falls again. So I think that when they talk about a security person was shot in their bulletproof vest, I think that was probably the person. And it was shot by this guy, not the alleged assassin. Now, here's another crazy thing about this. They said he had a shotgun. So I don't know if you could tell. You can't really tell. But when he comes through there, maybe you could tell on when I slow it down. Let me slow it down. What he has a shotgun that has a scope on it. So let's watch as he comes through. Let's see if we can see it. I should have blown this up.
In the film you showed me before, you could see a scope.
Okay. Let me see. Maybe this one you could see it. Yeah, maybe you could see it in this one. So when he comes out,
he looks very much like John Travolta in Pulp Fiction.
He really does. So here he comes.
Yeah,
so
there's
you can see it
clearly on the top.
So
of that.
he's got
That's
a scope.
rifle.
So this is not a shotgun. If that's a shotgun, you don't put a scope on a shotgun. A shotgun sprays bullets everywhere.
Who has released this CCTV or
I got this
footage?
off the RT's Twitter feed. So if that's a shotgun, why does he have a scope on it? That doesn't make sense. All right, so now you're talking about so of course the agent on the lower left opens fire on his colleagues for really dropping the ball there. And what are the odds that metal detector didn't even go off? The guy shaved this morning so he could technically and literally tell a bolt. So here, let's watch. Here's the new acting attorney general, Todd Blanche, and he's going to be asked about this. He's going to be asked about, hey, how many bullets did the guy fire? Where are the bullets? And let's listen.
Have you been able to determine whether the gunman fired shots? If so, how many shots he fired, and whose bullet hit the agent?
We want to get that right. So we're still looking at that. It appears, and I don't want to overstate because we are still looking at this, that there were five shots that law enforcement fired. We have all the evidence is being examined very carefully and expeditiously, and we'll know more soon. We do believe that as the complaint lays out, that the defendant fired it out of his shotgun, and we know that happened. But as far as getting into exacting ballistics, I'm not going to do that today because it's still being looked at and finalized.
How hard is it?
Thank you for taking my.
How hard is it to take all the pistols from all the security people there, check the magazine clips to see how many bullets are missing? That'll tell you how many times they fired. Look at the ground for brass casings. But what do I know? I'm just a comedian. Here, there's more questions about this.
Yeah.
A little technical question. You mentioned that you guys, so far, you think that Allen fired at least one shot. That doesn't say that in the affidavit yet. So I'm just curious if you can explain the discharging of weapon charge at this point.
Well, he's charged with violating 924C, discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence. So by definition, that charge means that it was discharged. I can tell you from what I know, with the understanding that we're a day and a half in, that this is the gun that he discharged. Yeah. And as those of us that have ever shot one of these know, what happens when you shoot that is the casing stays inside the firearm, and then if you reload it, it pops it out. My understanding is that it was inside the firearm, but hadn't been ejected, which means that it hadn't been pulled back again. But again, I want folks to understand I'm the acting attorney general. I'm not on the ground doing the investigation. So I'm telling you what I've been told, and we'll
Yeah, as the acting attorney general, my job is to read the script and stand on my mark, waiting for the director to shout, "And in action."
that information changes, I'm sure that we'll let you know. Yeah.
Just want to ask you about this letter that you posted yesterday.
So there's one more question. Here's one more question about the bullets and the gun.
One officer fired their weapon 5 times. Was that the only officer who discharged a firearm?
I want to be very careful in answering that question, because this is when you do
because I don't know what I'm
ballistics,
supposed to say.
Evidentiary collection and research, it is very complicated. So when you fire a bullet, the bullet ends up somewhere. Sometimes you find it, sometimes you don't. And so from that, with that qualifier, we believe right now that there was 5 shots fired from the same firearm. But there's a team of folks looking at this that are experts, and the evidence collection team that were in that area of the hotel where the shots were fired will work all night. They have the evidence they collected, but it's not an exact science from the standpoint that, for example, the buckshot, when that shot, it scatters everywhere, and sometimes it just disappears, actually, depending on where it hits.
Buckshot disappears.
I thought ballistics was a very exact science.
Well,
I thought they had been practicing ballistics as a science for a considerable period of time.
Well, this isn't ballistics, Neil. This is bullshitistics. That's what this is. And hey, sometimes you find the bullet, sometimes you don't. It's not like they're out in the woods hunting squirrels. They're inside of a hotel hallway. Did you check all the other agents to make sure they didn't leave a few rattling around in them? You got to be kidding me. Maybe that dog knew to get as far away from the group brain damaged rodeo clowns. Go ahead.
It does loot. It does. Why would you put that individual in front of anyone when they're clearly not in a position to give confident answers to any questions beyond saying we're a day and a half in and we don't really know anything yet? It's inevitable from a public relations point of view that given the context of this, given the people that we are told were in danger, the President of the United States of America, Erica Kirk, the Vice President of the United States, Kash Patel, all of these people, that a day and a half in, the best responses from the nominated spokesman for the investigation is basically, I'm not really sure. And some of the stuff might just have disappeared and we might never find it. And I'm not an expert. I mean, why would you, surely it'd be better to have no one address those journalists than that.
Because it seems like they just don't care anymore. It's like they don't even come up with lies that we can believe anymore. Like with the Charlie Kirk assassination. Oh, he was shot with a 30-aught bullet, which is a bullet like that size that would take his head clean off. If people remember that famous Clint Eastwood movie, Dirty Harry, where he had a 44 Magnum. He said, this is the most powerful handgun in the world. It'll take your head clean off. That's a handgun. We're talking about a 30-06 bullet, which is about 10 times bigger than that bullet. And of course that would take his head clean off. So they don't even try anymore. They paved, there's a million things. So my point to you, my response to what you just said is that they don't care because they know that the press corps is compromised. They run the establishment runs the media. This is about something to do with Israel and that bunker underneath the ballroom. My gut tells me that, and that's why they're doing this. And go ahead.
We must be getting to the end of the use of a playbook, because too many people have ready access to too much information. You want whatever the final story becomes around this particular incident. But you mentioned the Charlie Kirk. Effectively, we've ended up with a variation on the theme of a bullet behaving very strangely.
Miracle.
There was the suggestion that Charlie Kirk's neck was so strong because he was such a good man that the bullet couldn't penetrate it. But in any event, we were expected to believe that the bullet behaved in a very unusual way given the circumstances. Now, there was a magic bullet in the John F. Kennedy assassination
Yes.
in 63. The bullet that killed the 30-06 that killed Martin Luther King Jr. took a very unexpected path through the man's body. So again, you're expected in these very high-profile circumstances to accept a bullet doing something that a bullet almost never does. When Robert Kennedy was assassinated, even Robert Kennedy Jr. is on the record saying that he accepts that the bullets fired by Sirhan Sirhan, which were from the front, did not kill his father, because the fatal wounds to Robert Kennedy came from the back. So John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King Jr., Robert Kennedy, and now Charlie Kirk, there's always the general populace ends up being expected to accept that something very, very strange, quasi-miraculous, always happens in relation to these events. Someone somewhere has got to stop trying to offer up these explanations, because they just don't. There's too many of them in a row. One might be believable, two might be stretching it, but 3 and 4, and year after year, decade after decade, is it any surprise that now whenever people hear about any of these incidents, they're instantly skeptical and suspicious about what they're being told?
I want to play I think this is the one where he says that disappeared.
A little technical question. You mentioned that so far you think that Alan fired at least one shot. That doesn't say that in the affidavit yet, so I'm just curious if you can explain the discharging of weapon charge at this point.
So they say they think he shot one shot. They think. And then in the affidavit, according to that reporter, it doesn't even say that in the affidavit. And so let's watch him talk about magic happening.
Well, he's charged with violating 924C, discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence. So by definition, that charge means that it was discharged. I can tell you from what I know, with the understanding that we're a day and a half in, that this is the gun that he discharged. Yeah. And as those of us that have ever shot one of these know, what happens when you shoot that is the casing stays inside the firearm, and then if you reload it, it pops it out. My understanding is that it was inside the firearm, but hadn't been ejected, which means that it hadn't been pulled back again. But again, I want folks to understand, I'm the acting attorney general. I'm not on the ground doing the investigation, so I'm telling you what I've been told, and we'll, if that information changes, I'm sure that we'll let you know.
One officer fired their weapon 5 times. Was that the only officer who discharged a firearm?
I want to be very careful in answering that question, because this is when you do ballistics evidentiary collection and research, it is very complicated. So when you fire a bullet, the bullet ends up somewhere. Sometimes you find it, sometimes you don't.
Who knew?
And so from that, with that qualifier, we believe right now that there was 5 shots fired from the same firearm. But there's a team of folks looking at this that are experts, and the evidence collection team that were in that area of the hotel where the shots were fired will work all night. They have the evidence they collected, but it's not an exact science from the standpoint that, for example, the buckshot, when that shot, it scatters everywhere, and sometimes it just disappears, actually, depending.
Yeah, I think David Copperfield was there, and that's why it just disappeared, Neil.
In relation, to go back to Butler, Pennsylvania, why no investigation?
Yes.
Why? Given that we saw the events unfold, the people were. A man was a completely innocent bystander was shot and killed. Other people were injured. The assassin was killed. No investigation. Why? Already the Attorney General here is talking about the necessity to have a complete investigation into what happened here, and yet on the face of it, a much lesser incident than what we were told unfolded at Butler, Pennsylvania, and yet Donald Trump has evidenced no curiosity about what happened that day at all.
Well, I have 2 theories on that. One, it was set up. It was a staged event. And just like the Tyler Robinson, if you look into the alleged text messages, what really comes out is that the FBI had thought he was going to try to kill himself by suicide by cop, that he was going to stage a confrontation with the cops and they would kill him. Well, Tyler Robinson broke the plan and he actually turned himself into the cops. And so that screwed up their whole plan. They thought they were going to kill him just like they killed Crooks in Butler, Pennsylvania. So there can be no questioning of him, no investigation, and it's all, cut and dry. We got the guy. But he didn't play along, and so now they've got a wrench thrown into their plan, their conspiracy. And so I think there was either Trump was in on that, because there's so many things. You see them lowering the flag behind Donald Trump so he could do that iconic photograph, fight. They're literally lowering the flag as he stands up to do that. And Kurt Metzger points out that Trump had the one bloody ear and he's missing a shoe, which correlates to some kind of satanic cult ritual that he ties to Israel. The other thing is that Candace Owens said that Charlie Kirk was in the room when Donald Trump took the first $100 million from Miriam Adelson. And then after she was gone, he said, "I'm going to F her over. Don't worry." Because what she wanted for that $100 million was she wanted Trump to allow Israel to annex the West Bank. That was real. That's for sure said. And then after that meeting was over, Charlie Kirk still in the room. Trump turns to Charlie and says, "Don't worry, I'm going to F her over. I'm not going to do that." Well, if that leaked out to Candace Owens says, "Well, then I'm sure it leaked out to Miriam Adelson." And that got back to the Mossad. And maybe 2 weeks after that meeting, that's when so it was either Israel giving him a warning, you better do this, what we said, you better allow us to annex the West Bank, or it was Trump being in on it, setting up some kind of campaign stunt. So it definitely isn't what they said it was. And in that same Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt, the cops saw him 3 times inside restricted secured area. The cops saw him, reported that they saw him, and they're like, "Well, why didn't you go after and grab this guy? He's in restricted area." They see he has a scope and they see he has a backpack, and they don't go after him because literally what the cop said was he disappeared. 3 times he disappeared. Another David
There's a lot of magic involved. There's a lot of magic.
Just like Charlie Kirk's neck bone, it was miraculous. It's like, do you have an explanation of why that 30-06 bullet didn't take his head off that doesn't involve a miracle? No. So here's one more part of this White House Correspondents' Dinner and what this was all about. So there's obvious people know because of the minutes after the shooting, there was a coordinated effort with the same message by conservative media online with the same message. We need a ballroom. Like, why would they even give a shit about a ball? But that's what they were saying. And so this was a coordinated message coming from the White House to their minions and social media. And it was all about this ballroom. So now here's that same guy, the Attorney General. He's going to give you 2 contradictory statements about the ballroom and about the, because they're saying we need to have security. First of all, they don't have the White House Correspondents' Dinner. It's not a government function, so it wouldn't be at the White House in the first place. So that takes away the idea that they would have it at the White House. The second thing is, it was the first time Trump ever even attended. The first time he's ever attended. And that's when they have this fake assassination attempt. So that's already suspicious, right? None of them seemed upset. Kash Patel was just sitting there watching it happen. They go to the press conference. Everybody's just kind of giggly almost. And watch him say that the Secret Service performed, the security performed admirably. They didn't fail, that it was a success. Watch.
To the contrary, it was a massive security success story. I mean, if you think about what happened as far as what we know right now, this suspect barely breached the perimeter.
We absolutely believe that there is no better example of why this ballroom is necessary, aside from all the very positive things the ballroom will bring to this country and to Washington, D.C., than what happened on Saturday night.
So if it was an absolute security success, then you wouldn't need a ballroom to have more security, because you already successfully had a security thwart the shooter. Why would you need something else? You see the contradiction, right, Neil?
Absolutely. But what is it about? I ask people all the time now, what is it about the ballroom? It just, nothing about that makes sense. Why this obsessive commitment to this 400 million plus taxpayer dollar funded, white elephant on the White House, which has legally been challenged anyway. The brakes had been put on it anyway. And then, as you say, for the first time, President Donald Trump found time in his schedule to attend that junket, which is notorious for the roasting of the president or whatever. And it had previously been assumed that he would, that his ego wouldn't let him, attend such an event. But that he attends this event, and in the immediate aftermath of it, while the sounds of gunfire are still ringing around the place, there's a counter challenge to the brakes that had been put on his, attempt to build this ballroom. It's absolutely bizarre. And yes, as you say, the seeming incompetence that's displayed by that CCTV footage coming in at the same time as that Attorney General standing up and saying it was a complete success. I mean, who is handling these operations? Who's paying attention to the optics and imagining that in any way this makes any of them look anything less than ridiculous? It's not about incompetence. These people just look ridiculous.
Well, to suggest that this assassination was a real event, pardon my French, takes a lot of ballroom, if you know what I'm talking about. Come on. There we go.
No, I don't. What gets me, what I think is the most important point really, is that we are now in a situation where whatever happens next, people won't believe it. People are ready in advance to not believe whatever it is. Whatever the official narrative is that comes out, too many people are instantly and reflexively skeptical, cynical at best, if not completely unbelieving.
Unless it's another
fake a very interesting state of affairs.
Unless it's another fake pandemic, which is coming, right?
No one's going to believe that. People may do as they're told. That's a different matter. If people are told to stay in their homes, they may stay in their homes, but the belief is gone. People will stay in their homes because they fear consequences, but they will not be staying in their homes because they fear a pandemic.
What do you have a lot of people? I'm switching back to COVID. Do you have a lot of people? I do have a lot of people when I go up in comedy clubs in Los Angeles, and I do my jokes about the vax, and I do my jokes about COVID in general, and the mandate, the forcing of an experimental medical treatment on people, or they can't work, or they can't travel, or they can't go to school. When I talk about this, I have a lot of comedians whisper to me about their vaccine injury, but they don't want to tell anybody. And they also say, yeah, that I never believed that, or I didn't get the vax. I have those three things happen all the time now. And I'm glad that they're telling me that, but at the same time, I have disdain for their lack of courage. What do you have that happen to you, and how do you respond to it?
I haven't for a long time. In fact, with the exception of people like yourself, I have very seldom had people say to me, I took the jab and I was hurt by it. I mean, I get a lot of people that say, I've got this condition, I've got that condition, I'm struggling with such and such. But talk of the jab never comes up. I make that assumption myself because there's a terribly depressing regularity with which people report the same things. Heart attacks, strokes, neurological conditions, autoimmune conditions, all of it, the whole gamut, cancer. There's a terrifying, predictable regularity to what people tell me. but they don't talk about vaccine injury unless, as I say, I go to something like that conference in Guernsey, where that was a collection of people who had already decided that they were going to be out and, not out and proud, but they were just going to tell the truth. They were going to say, I took these injectables and I have had consequences, negative consequences as a result. But I look on mostly, Jimmy, at the people for whom, people with high profiles, people with platforms, based on decades of high profile work, the people that I had expected that would have spoken up, that would have challenged narratives, that would have said, I don't think this is right, I think we need to know more about this, and so on, and they didn't. And I find that the whole pantheon of famous people, the whole pantheon of high-level journalists, media people, actors, musicians, all the people who were out there with a spotlight on them and in a position to at least pass comment, if not, sound the charge, sound the battle cry, and they didn't. I look on at them, and what do we see? That nothing has changed for them. They've still got their jobs. They've still got the next gig. They've still got, they've got a career advance out of it, and they continue to say nothing about what happened. They don't even retrospectively, these high-profile people, they don't come out and say, what was done then was terribly wrong, and I am terribly sorry about what I didn't do, and I'm full of remorse that I had an opportunity to do more and I did nothing. That's what dizzies me.
I often recall my interview with Cornel West on this show, who was a hero of mine until he came on the show to talk about his presidential campaign, and we brought up COVID, and he ended up trying to shame me for questioning the vax. And he's like, "Oh, are you afraid of a vaccine? You're afraid of vaccines?" That's what he kept saying to me. Instead of being outraged that 40% of Black-owned businesses were closed permanently because of a pretend pandemic that wasn't deadly, that shut down Black businesses, and he had no concern whatsoever. And he tried to shame me for being concerned about this thing, which we now know has unbelievable adverse events, and they're not side effects, they're effects. And everything. So anyway, I just lost hero after hero after hero who didn't have the courage that I had to talk about it, and I knew they knew better. Anyway,
it's inexplicable. I don't understand it. All you and I did was almost guilelessly speak about what we saw. It was nothing. It shouldn't have been anything remarkable to notice what was happening and to say something about it. It wasn't. It shouldn't have been about any kind of bravery. It should just have been in people's human nature. We don't talk about the excess deaths. You talk about the fact that they changed the definition of vaccination was changed to make allowance for what they had actually done in the context of those mRNA vaccines. They also went to the lengths of changing how excess deaths were calculated. At least they certainly did that in Britain. I don't know if they did that. I don't know if that was a global phenomenon. But the uncomfortable evidence of too many people dying, not during the so-called outbreak of COVID, but after 2021 and the rollout of the injectables, too many people died and continue to die, and no one is prepared to talk about it. Excess deaths. What does it take within a species to speak up about the fact that statistically unlikely numbers of people are contracting late-stage cancer and the rest as comparatively young people? It is like watching fiction.
It is.
I feel as if I'm watching fiction.
But it's real, and we're living in it, and it's not going away. Neil, I appreciate you making all this time for us. I just like to get your comment on the wars that are happening. So this is the most recent thing. If you have to go, please let me know. Do you have to go?
It's all right, Jimmy. No, carry on.
So Russia just banned the dollar from its energy trade with Europe. All future oil and gas deals, Russian rubles or Chinese yuan only. No dollars ever again. So Europe sanctioned Russia to protect the dollar system. Russia just removed the dollar from the European. That is shocking. This is, again, having major unintended consequences. The international security state and the WEF Davos group thought that they were going to be able to crush Russia and break it up and balkanize it into pieces, and then BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard could buy it up. It didn't happen. In fact, Russia is stronger now than ever before. Putin has got a higher popularity ratings than ever before, 75, 80% popularity ratings, and he's closer together with China, and now they're trading oil and not the dollar, which is the worst outcome for the United States because our whole economy is based on the petrodollar, and when that goes away, our currency devalues, and our ability to print money. If we're no longer the reserve currency of the world, everything's gone. We can't sanction people. We lose all our power, and our economy crashes. So just wherever you'd like to take it, talking about the Ukraine war, the craziness of Europe in general, because they're doubling down. They want more war with Russia. And if you have any ideas on why that is and what's going to happen, go right ahead.
Well, just in the last 24 hours, King Charles III, has been speaking in the presence of Donald Trump, and has been making plain his belief, his opinion that we being Britain and the United States have to stand fast in support of the brave people of Ukraine and the independent status of Ukraine. Now, of course, the citizenry of Ukraine, God help them and God bless them. The ordinary people that have had this descend upon them. But the Zelensky regime, that being what I mean by Ukraine in this context, the fact that the king, whose sworn duty is to look out for his subjects, to protect the people, to be their last line of defense in many respects, and he's basically getting behind the idea of ongoing war with Russia. Now, I just find that once again, he in this context is again playing out of the worn out playbook. He was invoking, in the aftermath of 9/11, how we came together, with unity. And he was also, playing the greatest hits of Second World War and the First World War, how we stood shoulder to shoulder at that time. It's surely too late for the latest iterations of these people, the monarch in Great Britain, the president of the United States, the president of the European Union. It's too late. Too much has changed, and too many people are aware of too much for them to keep on banging these same drums. You invoke 9/11 now, and too many people say, yeah, you mean the one that the CIA knew about? You mean the one that George W. Bush knew about? You mean the one that Israel knew about in advance? You mean that 9/11? Too many people air those so-called, conspiracy theories. And you invoke, the Second World War, and by now too many people say, "Oh yeah, the one that you mean in the aftermath, there was the Bretton Woods Agreement that pinned the dollar to gold and pinned every other currency then to the dollar, which then set the pattern, towards towards everything else that has happened in the name of the dollar. You mean World War II, where it was Britain went to war to liberate Poland, and then by the end of the war, that wasn't even attempted, and Poland was just thrown under the bus. You mean the Second World War, where the communists were handed half of the continent. You mean that Second World War? You mean the Second World War where Operation Paperclip lifted thousands of Nazis, war criminals, out of Germany and transplanted them to America, for the rocket program and into academia and into every walk of American life? Too many people have those responses now. And yet we all still have to sit back and watch the latest monarch of Great Britain and the latest president of the United States of America invoking the greatest hits in expectation of the kind of response they used to get. When are they going to realize that those days are over? That on account of what has happened, the realization that's been made possible by people's exposure to the information that's on the internet, the information that's circulated and discussed endlessly by the alternative/independent media. People know too much, and yet we've got talk of the toy soldiers in what remains of the British Army, talking about the necessity for the nation to prepare for war, kinetic war with Russia. The European Union promising 90 billion euros to Ukraine, euros that the people of Europe need and are being denied, but that are promised nonetheless to the Zelensky regime in Ukraine. We all know this stuff, and we're still having to watch these tired acts step out on stage and play the same old tunes. When are they going to realize that nobody buys it anymore and the show's over?
Well, wouldn't that show up in elections then? Wouldn't that show up in the European elections, and we would get new leaders? Because I always thought people in Europe were much smarter and more cosmopolitan than people in the United States. Don't they know that when they blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, that it negatively affected their economy? Because
unless and until people realize that if you're offered it as something you can vote for, it's another buttock of the same arse. So people are offered so-called alternatives. It happens all the time, but they are sanctioned alternatives. All across, people in good faith think that they can vote their way out of it. They believe in the concept of democracy, and they believe that eventually the right party and the right candidates are going to step forward, and if they can just get them into power, everything will change. That's the last redoubt. As long as that corrupted, rotten system is perpetuated by well-meaning people who think that, finally, that's the party for me. They'll deliver the goods. They'll come through on their promises. They'll stop the population changing, mass uncontrolled immigration. They'll get us out of this, that, and the next thing. They'll stop they'll stop all the things I'm frightened of, because people aren't realizing that if it's wearing a suit, it's got on a rosette, and it's standing on a soapbox, and you're allowed to vote for it, it's part of the problem. It's just the new face of the same problem.
So what I hear you saying is that there's no way to vote our way out of this, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, that system's been corrupted all the way. Liberals aren't liberal.
That's right.
Conservatives aren't conservative.
Correct.
Labour doesn't work.
Nope.
The Greens aren't green. The Greens are about greed. So
how do we get out of this?
People have not understood. It's a very, people say that to me all the time. How do we get out of it? But it does come back to people understanding certain things. Democracy is not made manifest by voting in an election. That's not democracy. Democracy is people governing themselves, self-governing people, and you only govern yourself if you have the last say on the laws under which you're expected to live. And if there's a mechanism for manifesting that as a reality, then you've got democracy. Now, in Britain, for 800 years, we had trial by jury, whereby an accused person is brought before a jury of his or her peers. And that jury, whatever, listens to the story they're told and decides based on their conscience, whether or not they think the person should be convicted or not of whatever breach of legislation has seen them land up in court. But much more importantly than the guilt or innocence of the individual, they are there to weigh up the justice of the legislation, the justice or not of the law that that person is being, accused of breaking. And moment by moment, with every case, a jury is empowered to check the justice of the law. That's being taken away in Britain. Trial by jury is all but gone. And if you end up in a situation, as we will in Britain, where an administration can write its laws, get them passed because it has a majority or otherwise controls the parliament, and then decides what the punishments will be for anybody breaking that law, and it employs the judges that will make the decisions about guilt or innocence, that's textbook tyranny. Now, we in Britain have watched that happen. That's the end of democracy. That is the end of democracy. Voting in elections, that should only be about, having a momentary concern about the makeup of the administration that will look after, that will administer the wishes of the people. So with that, because of what's been done to trial by jury in Britain, for example, we don't have democracy. The people cannot govern themselves, because the only mechanism that manifests that as a reality, which is trial by jury, where the jury, sitting as a little parliament, tests the justice or not of the legislation. Once that's gone, it's a dictatorship. So in answer to your question, how do we get out of this? You're not going to get out of it by voting, because if you can vote for it, it's one of them.
Yeah, that's I had tried to explain that to people, and it's hard to get it over on people. They just can't. In the United States, people just see Trump as the ultimate evil instead of just a continuation of what we all have had, and they somehow turn a blind eye to Joe Biden forcing experimental medical treatments on people. They turn a blind eye to Joe Biden starting a proxy war with the nuclear power. They turn a blind eye to Joe Biden funding a genocide right in front of our faces. They've turned a blind eye to him smashing a union strike. They turned a blind eye to the Democratic Party rigging 3 primaries in a row, so we don't even get a choice. 3 primaries in a row, and the last one, they didn't even bother to have a primary. But anyway, go ahead. You wanted to say.
We as a species are watching genocide.
I know.
The 20th century was supposed to teach all of us that if we so much as smelled the smoke of a potential genocide, we were supposed to shout fire. That was supposed to be the lesson of the 20th century. Don't wait until it's happening. If it's happening, stop it. But don't wait until it's happening. But we are watching a genocide unfold. In Lebanon, Christians in Lebanon are being murdered and dispossessed in Lebanon under our gaze. How can before you get to things like whatever democracy and union strikes being smashed, we have disregarded lesson number 1 that, as I understood it, we were supposed to get from the 20th century, which is you don't stand by while someone somewhere mows the grass. You don't do that.
Right.
That's step number 1. If we are going to watch a genocide, we've got a president of the United States of America vowing to bomb into the Stone Age a 4,000-year-old civilization, promising that it will never rise again, that civilization, unless he gets his way. J.D. Vance is still saying, oh, well, if the people of Iran will just do what we need them to do, if they'll just go where we want, then it'll be an economic success story. How many times are people going to watch that playbook played by America? after the 7 wars in 5 years.
Yeah.
The Libya was promised a bright new future if it wasn't for the Gaddafi regime. Now, what happened there? Well, Gaddafi was sodomized to death with a scaffold pole, and now you can buy slaves in Tripoli for $400. How many people are going to look on at the endless repetition of the use of the same playbook?
Look at Syria. Syria now, as we predicted, if you get rid of Assad, they're going to install an Al-Qaeda is going to take over, and that's exactly what happened, except he took off his terrorist garb and he put on a Brooks Brothers suit, and he's welcomed at Downing Street. He's welcome at the White House. Everybody loves the former chief head chopper of Al-Qaeda in Syria, who's now running that country. But of course, he's working with Israel because that's part of the greater Israel project. And now Israel does control about a third of Syria. So, it's exactly what you're saying. Exactly what you're saying.
Look at Libya. Look at Iraq. Look at Sudan. Look at Somalia. Look at Afghanistan. One country after another. Look what's happened. It's the same thing that happens every time. Iraq and Saddam Hussein, that had to be taken on because he was looking at trading oil and other resources in his own currency or without the petrodollar.
Can't have
so
that.
He was hanged by the neck until he was dead. Look what happened to Muammar Gaddafi. Same thing. He was contemplating stepping out of line.
Yeah.
Not having a central bank, not playing by the playbook of the Bank for International Settlement, that runs the central banks. He wouldn't do it, so he ends up in a drain pipe with a mob. And yet these are the things that have to be. God, it's a long road, but to me, in my lifetime, that we're watching a genocide and excusing it. We're watching a genocide and saying. And listening to people say, well, someone's got to do it.
I know. Neil, I really appreciate you being so generous with your time. It's always great to see you. It's always great to talk to you. I really feel a close connection with you, and I hope we get to see each other.
Jimmy.
Hope we get to see each other soon. Are you ever coming to the States?
Well, I don't have any immediate plans. I passed through the States. I was briefly in Newark Airport en route to Calgary for another conference about the aftermath of COVID. I talk about people playing the greatest hits. I'm still doing it myself.
Okay. Neil Oliver, thanks everybody. His Twitter handle is @thecoastguy. And what is your YouTube channel?
The Neil Oliver channel. I have a Patreon.com presence, which is very important to me, and neiloliver.com, the Neil Oliver channel on YouTube. If people are interested in me, they can surely find me.
Okay. Neil Oliver, thanks again, brother. We'll talk to you again soon.
I love you, Jimmy.
Love you too, pal. Over to Steph.
Okay. So we're planning on going to Rumble in a few minutes. How do you feel about that, Jimmy? What do you want?
Oi! I don't want any trouble.
Okay, I guess we need to go to Rumble.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I've put it in the...
Coming up, we have...
show Jimmy.
Coming up on Rumble, we're going to have Candace Owens drops the hammer on Andrew Colvett. And she's getting sued by the head of the security that allowed Charlie Kirk to get assassinated. She's getting sued by that guy. No kidding. And she really drops the hammer on Andrew Colvett. Guess who the mole is inside of TPUSA who's giving information to Candace Owens? We're going to tell you that. A lot more coming up at Rumble. So come over to Rumble. We'll see you there. Plus, we have an interview with Casey Pooch, who's running against Vivek Ramaswamy in Ohio for governor. That's all coming up on the Rumble part of the show. See you over there, Steph.
Oi, I don't want to have any trouble.
Okay. Hey, Sam Altman recently announced that ChatGPT can now reference all your past conversations. Did you know that? Do you feel comfortable knowing an AI platform has access to all your thoughts, dreams, sensitive questions, business ideas, etc.? What are they going to do with it? Introducing Venice AI. Venice AI lets you use AI without handing over your sensitive information. Venice utilizes leading open source AI models to deliver text, code, and image generation to your web browser. There's no downloads, no installations of anything. They don't spy on you or censor the AI. Messages are encrypted and your conversation history stored only in your browser. AI can be extremely valuable, but we shouldn't need to give up your privacy to use it. Their Pro plan unlocks the full platform and features including PDF uploads for summaries or insights, the ability safe mode for unhindered image generation, and the ability to change how Venice interacts with you by modifying the system prompt, limitless text, and high image limits. It will generate images Grok won't allow me to generate. Here's an example. Ready? Hey, please generate an image of a baby getting vaccinated. And there it is. They did it. There it is. So that Grok won't do that. So if you want to use AI without fear of handing over your most intimate thoughts to a corporation or the government, you can get 20% off a Pro plan using my link, venice.ai/Jimmy. And the code is Jimmy.